The gate crashers.
Yeah.
By now, you must know.
It's really a shame that I had to go through a whole 60-minute interview without talking about the gate crasher.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most egregious instances in which intruders slipped past security and managed to gain access into the White House.
It all happened after someone shot an AK-47 from outside the gates, and the bullet lodged in the bulletproof glass.
Robert K. Preston.
The aircraft was at the Washington Monument and looked as though he was going to land. After hovering there for about a minute and a half.
Today, the airspace around the White House is heavily guarded. But back in 1974, that security was far less stringent. This lapse allowed 20-year-old Army Private Robert K. Preston to land a stolen helicopter on the south lawn of the White House with little resistance. Preston, who had joined the Army to become a pilot, failed his helicopter training and grew disgruntled.
From my indications, his intentions was to fly the aircraft directly into the White House.
Determined to prove his abilities, he stole a helicopter on February 17, 1974 and flew to Washington, D.C., where he landed on the White House lawn. Although Secret Service agents opened fire, Preston suffered only minor injuries and even ran towards the White House before being tackled and arrested. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined $2,400.
Did you have any idea he could fly a helicopter?
We subsequently found out that Private Preston had attended but not graduated from the helicopter pilot school at Fort Walters, Texas.
Chester Plummer. The 1970s were a challenging period for decorated Army veteran Chester Plummer. His marriage ended in divorce, and a subsequent relationship also fell apart. These personal struggles led to several impulsive actions, including an assault incident involving his father, who pressed charges against him. Everything came to a head on July 25, 1976, when Plummer jumped the White House fence around 9:30 p.m., carrying a 3-foot metal pipe. As he approached the building, a security guard shot him, and he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. To this day, his motives remain unknown, although people who knew him suggested he harbored no ill feelings towards President Gerald Ford, and may have just been seeking a way to end his life. Anthony Henry.
The man in the white karate outfit had jumped the White House fence with his knife hidden inside a Bible and used it to keep officers at bay.
We all have our grievances with the government, which we typically vent about on social media. But no such thing existed in 1978. So 35-year-old Anthony Henry decided to take his message directly to the president. Henry apparently didn't like the phrase "In God We Trust" on the U.S. currency and wanted it removed. On October 4th, barefoot and dressed in white karate garb, he scaled the White House fence. He was quickly surrounded by security, but managed to slash 2 officers with a knife before being arrested. Henry was charged with 2 counts of assault on a police officer and 1 count of unlawful entry.
Within 5 minutes, though, reinforcements arrived and the guards made their move.
His concerns were never heard, and the phrase remains on American currency to this day. Frank Eugene Corder.
Early good morning, everyone. An extraordinary breach of security. Early this morning, a small plane, crashing on the south lawn of the White House.
Although security in the White House airspace was beefed up after the 1974 helicopter incident, a similar breach occurred 2 decades later. This time, the pilot was 38-year-old Army veteran Frank Eugene Corder. By 1994, Corder's life had taken a steep downturn. He had been convicted of drug charges, and his 3rd marriage had just ended. Depressed and heavily intoxicated, Corder stole a small airplane on the night of September 11, 1994, and flew it toward the White House.
The president was not at home when this happened, but he was supposed to be in a bedroom window not far from where the plane came to a rest.
In his impaired state, Corder crashed the plane into the south lawn while attempting to land and was killed on impact. It appears his intention was to end his life and gain attention in the process.
All I can say, it was like a smooth glide. You know, like you have a glider, and it was kind of like gliding like that.
The engines were off?
Yeah, I didn't hear no engine.
Francisco Martin Duran.
No, anybody shot? Oh, no. Anybody shot? Everybody back front. Everybody get back.
Less than 2 months after the incident involving Frank Eugene Corder, a man named Francisco Martin Duran made a daring attempt to assassinate President Bill Clinton. Like Corder, Duran had served in the Army, but was discharged following a conviction for aggravated assault. On October 29, 1994, armed with a semi-automatic rifle, Duran went to the White House, intending to kill Clinton.
The president and his family were never in any danger. And the president was upstairs in the residence watching a football game at the time.
After mistaking a group of men on the lawn for the president, Duran opened fire, shooting 29 rounds at the White House. He was quickly tackled by 3 passersby and held down until Secret Service agents arrived. Duran received a 40-year prison sentence for attempting to kill the president. He is expected to be released in 2029.
If he had got reloaded, I think he would have probably shot the people that were standing on the sidewalk.
Robert Pickett.
This morning, a 47-year-old man was shot by the Secret Service after brandishing a gun outside the southwest gate of the White House.
On February 7, 2001, former IRS accountant Robert Pickett showed up at the White House with a loaded gun. He allegedly fired several shots, triggering a tense 10-minute standoff with police, who repeatedly urged him to drop the weapon. The standoff only ended when an officer shot him in the knee. It appears Pickett, who had a history of mental illness, had been dismissed from the IRS in the late 1980s, which made him consider ending his life. Officers believe he intended to provoke police into fatally shooting him, but that ultimately failed. Instead, Pickett was arrested and later pleaded guilty to violating a local weapons law. He also entered an Alford plea on the charge of assaulting a federal officer. Tariq and Mikhail Salahi.
The gate crashers.
Yeah.
By now, you must know.
It's really a shame that I had to go through a whole 60-minute interview without talking about the gate crashers.
You've probably watched a movie where an uninvited guest sneaks into an exclusive event and wondered, could that happen in real life? Well, apparently it can. Just ask Tariq and Mikhail Salahi. Back in November 2009, the then-married couple was filming for their reality show The Real Housewives of D.C. when they managed to bypass 2 security checkpoints and enter the White House.
I think that what I know is what everybody knows, which is that these people should not have gotten through the gate. A mistake was made at the checkpoint to let them through.
There, they attended a state dinner for Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and even took pictures with President Barack Obama. The Secret Service didn't realize there had been a security breach until the Salahis posted those pictures on Facebook. While they weren't charged with any crimes, the negative publicity led to their reality show getting canceled after just 1 season.
Were you unhappy with your social secretary?
I was unhappy with everybody who was involved in the process because obviously, although I chafe at being in the bubble, I also want to make sure my family's safe.
Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez.
This is the scene at the White House where they are saying the hidden security system was put to the test, and it worked. It all happened after someone shot an AK-47 from outside the gates, and the bullet lodged in the bulletproof glass.
On November 11, 2011, 21-year-old Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez parked his car across from the White House and fired at least 8 rounds at the building. Ortega Hernandez, who believed President Obama was the Antichrist, had become increasingly fearful of an impending apocalypse and decided he needed to stop him.
Diane, it's been nearly 2 decades since anyone shot at the White House, so you can imagine it's been a tense few days.
Fortunately, neither the president nor the First Lady were in the White House at the time. The Secret Service initially mistook the gunfire for construction noise from a nearby site and didn't realize bullets had struck the White House until 4 days later. Ortega Hernandez fled the scene after the shooting, but he was apprehended in a Pennsylvania hotel on November 16th and sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Mr. Ortega Hernandez was apprehended at the Hampton Inn in White Township approximately 12:20 this afternoon.
Omar Gonzalez.
The Secret Service is launching a full review of its procedures after a pair of security breaches. The New York Times reports officials are already considering checkpoints several blocks away to screen tourists.
Despite the White House fence being fortified with spikes, several people have managed to scale it over the years. In 2014, Iraq war veteran Omar Gonzalez became one of them. Gonzalez dealt with PTSD and had grown increasingly paranoid in the months prior. On September 19th, he jumped the fence and ran into the White House, making it all the way to the East Room before being apprehended.
Well, I think that senior Secret Service officials are pretty disappointed in what happened, and they clearly know that there's a problem here. They say, look, we don't have the resources to put an officer every 5 feet.
A search revealed a 3.5-inch knife in his pocket. Gonzalez later explained that he believed the, quote, atmosphere was collapsing and wanted to warn President Obama to inform the public. The president and his family were not around when the incident occurred. Gonzalez ultimately pleaded guilty to 2 felonies and received a 17-month prison sentence.
But we have a plan here. We have these dogs, and they should have been unmuzzled and sent immediately to stop this guy, because they have a policy basically of not shooting people who don't look unarmed.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Jonathan T. Tran.
What it appears happened here is that a man gained entrance to the White House security perimeter at around 11:38 Friday night and actually made quite a bit of progress into the White House perimeter.
In the first White House security breach of President Donald Trump's administration, 26-year-old Jonathan T. Tran jumped the fence and entered the grounds. Tran reportedly rattled the back door handle and even peered through a window, all without being noticed. Unlike other incidents on this list, the president was inside the White House at the time of the incident.
This is a pretty familiar entrance to the White House. This is, of course, the entrance that the president would enter and exit from when he's leaving on a trip to get onto Marine One before heading to Joint Base Andrews.
But it took 17 minutes before he was apprehended by Secret Service agents. He was found with 2 cans of mace and told the agents he was, quote, a friend of the president. Despite the security lapse being labeled, quote, a complete and utter total failure by the Congressional Oversight Chairman, Tran was only sentenced to 2 years of probation.
He was made aware of the situation as soon as the Secret Service could provide him those details. And as we said, the president was not harmed. So this individual is under arrest right now.
Which of these White House security fails shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below.
Everyone's happy that no one got hurt, but Diane, it was an extremely dangerous situation.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.